Hello, everybody. Welcome to the House Medium, or welcome back to the House Medium. I'm Adele Levine, your House Medium. I am back, and I have a full episode, and I have lots to talk about. Lots to talk about today. So I can't wait to get into it. I have a guest who has the greatest name, Raphaella. It's like Raphael, the archangel, but with an A at the end. Um, and she has some great stories to share with us today. So I can't wait for you guys to hear. I hope this is going to give you a little reprieve where you can step in to the paranormal world with me and step out of the earthly world. I think we all could use that. I'm going to talk about all the things. So first, let's go into my Medium Brew Cafe. Because I have some things I want to get into. First of all, let's just kind of let me go back a little bit. When I did I haven't like really talked to you guys since Halloween. Well, maybe a little bit. But I wanted to kind of go over a special episode I did where I went into the cemetery. And don't worry, I'm going to talk about all the things, the energy in the world. I just want everyone to just sit back and relax. I have a lot I'm going to get into in this episode because we need to get into all the things. We have UFOs in the ocean. Trust me, I got it all for you guys. But I wanted to mention this episode because if you missed it, it's on Patreon, and I won't release it on here. I was gonna say I probably, then I realized my kiddo's in it. He does not like attention. He doesn't like, although his robotics team made regionals. Woo! Wait. Where's my claps? Where's my claps? Wait, I have to say this again. Because can I just say this? He doesn't like attention. So he went with me to the cemetery. But in the meantime, can I just say yes? His robotics team made originals who went to compete. And if you've been following me a long time, you may know that it's always something he was into. What's really funny, speaking of psychic stuff, was I speaking of psychic stuff? I am. I used to always say to people, oh, listen, I believe in letting kids, get involved with technology because who's going to program the robots? Well, it looks like I might know somebody. Anyway, so getting back to the cemetery episode, I went to the cemetery. He went with me. I recorded it. He didn't want me to air it on for people to hear, only on the little Patreon. So it was a special episode. But what I didn't know if people caught is that the end, the what I do when I go to the cemetery is I see which one I'm drawn to, which tombstone I'm drawn to. I tell you what I see around the tombstone, and then I have and then I go over to there and I read what it says to try to get validation. By the way, this is a great way to practice your own sight. Go to a cemetery, try it if you're brave enough. You don't have to do it at night. We did this at night on a full moon when I didn't even realize it was a full moon. Anyway, he kept getting drawn to this particular one, and I didn't want to go to it. It seemed like a far walk, and I was like, I'm trying to stay close to the lights because it wasn't the dead people I was worried about. It was the living people. So anyway, we went over to that tombstone, read it, and what I saw was a baby. It was a young baby, and I saw this mother crying. Anyway, we went home, looked it up. It was a famous case in the area. It was in an article, and yes, it was children, and yes, they mentioned the actual tombstone that we saw. Yep. So I didn't really stress that enough. I thought I did, but I want you guys to go check that out on my Patreon. Speaking of my Patreon, I am doing a meditation because I think we need it, right? trying to connect people to the light, trying to connect people back to something that can feel good. Just you can come live or you can watch the recording later. It's going to be on the 24th. Yes, I know. No, it's not the day before Thanksgiving. Anyway, it's going to be the 24th, and it will give you a chance to like kind of take a little break, connect to the realm. And if you're in my Patreon, you will get quite a good discount off of there for being on my Patreon. The code is waiting for you there. And if you haven't joined, join, because you still will unlock all the other things that I have on there and still get a little discount. Okay, let's get to time for
paranormal gossip.
Paranormal gossip. Okay, for this paranormal gossip, we're going to have to go into the spaceship. We're going to have to, hold on a second. I have to tell, hey, everyone, be quiet. We have to go, be quiet in the coffee shop and go into the spaceship because they have found aliens in the ocean. Yes. Now, here's the thing. Here, I'm changing my lighting while I'm talking to you guys. See that? Those of you listening, you're like, no, Adela. Now, here's the thing. I want to get back to my coffee people. Here's the thing about the aliens in the ocean. I just want everyone to understand it. It's not aliens come or eat. I heard somebody, now it's like sticking in my head. She's like, they don't like being called that. They don't, but they also kind of don't care because they don't mind. They know that like we see them as not, obviously they're not of this world. Anyway, what I want to get, I digress. So they aren't coming, they don't live and they aren't coming from the ocean. It is just a place, I've always felt this made sense, where they can go and reside and be undetected. And this was announced. I don't know if anyone realizes this was a hearing where they literally told America, told all of the world, yes, there's aliens and they go in the ocean. And nobody blinked an eye. That's the best part. They're like, yes, there's aliens. They do exist here. They are real. The jig is up. And oh, by the way, in case you get creeped out when you go to the ocean and you're going on a cruise ship or anything else, they exist in the ocean as well, not just the sky. And everybody just goes, wow, that was interesting. Anyway, you want to get some coffee? I mean, here's why. 1, the world is tired. 2, the government, by the way, just so everyone doesn't get this twisted, they want you to react this way. They're happy you're reacting this way. The whole reason they tell us things and kind of like, here you go, and then pause. The whole reason they wait to tell us while there's a whole lot else going on in the world is because they want you to be desensitized, because the more you get used to this, the more the world tends to not be comfortable, and they're like, fine, we want to see them, we believe it, we want to see them. They're getting closer to doing that. I always try to tell people the reason why they don't just march those aliens out for everyone to see is because of religion. I do posts on demons. I do posts on spirits. I do posts on that I can turn myself into a werewolf. And people have things to say, but nobody says more to me and tells me how I'm going to hell is when I do videos on aliens, on ETs, because it messes up the whole religious theological theory, theories. I call them theories. Theological ideas. So that's happening. Now, I also wanted to let everyone know this. There's a lot going on in the world. There's a lot going on in our country for those of us who are here in the United States, and it affects the rest of the world. And I know there's so many feelings about it. And I want to be clear that as a human being, I obviously have my own opinions and ideas of these things. But as a spiritual person, I am here to help all people. And I feel like I want this to be a safe haven. I want people to feel like, to understand that there are all walks of life happening, there's all circumstances. It's not something that's just black and white in the sense of people are in all types of scenarios and families, and they come from different cultures and ideas. And I, as a spiritual person, read everybody of all walks of life have all types of things that have happened to them, and I want to help anybody I can. I want you to know that I will not tolerate anything in my Patreon, anything on my platforms where it's discrimination or hate towards anybody. I will go forward in the work that I do, believing 100% in the idea of leave everybody the fuck alone and let them live their lives. I will not tolerate hatred and bigotry towards people ever, because I'm a spiritual person and as a person in general. Now, I believe we are going to move towards the light. I 100% believe light always wins, and everybody's idea of that is very different. I understand that. But what I mean by that when I say light wins, I mean I believe we're going to move into a new future, and in that future, whether people want to go through an easy way or a difficult way, because I think sometimes people want to go through a difficult way, we are going to evolve and grow as people. And we are going to move towards the idea of a collective consciousness and understanding each other. So I want people to be very clear when I say this, that I believe in the heart in all. Sometimes when the world appears very dark, it's hard to see it. I understand. But all the work that I do, I've tried to get people to wake up, to evolve, to grow. I've tried to give people the tools. And I'll talk about this to remind everybody at the end, because I want to leave some people with some things. And I want you to understand that there's one saying that I say over and over, and you're going to hear me say it so many times again, that it's easy to find peace on a mountaintop. It's easy to find peace when everything's okay. It's very hard in the middle of chaos, and that's why I do this work that I do. Now, with that said, let's go into some paranormal stuff, because that's what we're all here for. Take a little break. I'm going to change the tone a little bit for right now. And let's take a little break and get into these emails, okay? Just take a little step away from everything and go into the paranormal kind. All right. This is from Raphaella. My name is Raphaella. I was instantly drawn to the way you make the spirit world more approachable and how at ease I felt with the more woo-woo parts of life from listening to your experiences. Now, she heard me on the BCC Boys and other podcasts. I have 2 experiences I wanted to share with you, and I also would love to discuss future home buying. She's kind of was listening to my earlier. I kind of don't do that anymore, but I can always do that for you in a reading, Raphaella. Experience 1. I've always been pretty sensitive to spirits and the other side. I attribute this to losing my father when I was 3 months old. The first experience I want to discuss is the one that I had in one of my childhood homes growing up in Albany, California. The house always felt, quote, off to me. I had grown up in houses prior to this that never felt oppressive, but this one did. It was an inviting house, and I always felt a sketchy presence there that I knew was not a fan of having me in the house at all. I constantly felt like I was being watched and had sleep paralysis on multiple occasions. always feeling someone was slowly walking up to my bed and just staring at me with displeasure. In those moments, I would pray to my Father to make them go away, and it always worked. The worst experience was when I was about 19, had my boyfriend over. We were laying in my bed, taking a nap, when I was jolted by the audible sound of a woman screaming in my ear. Yep. I immediately started crying and told my boyfriend what I experienced, but he heard nothing. Yuck. Yep, it got to her that much because that can happen. You kind of like really, like, I've had this happen where it's so real. It's like disturbing. You know what I mean? And you can feel the energy as well. Okay, experience 2. The second one happened only a couple years ago in my aunt's house in Richmond, California. I was there house sitting with my now partner, and we were in bed sleeping. I had a lucid dream that a ghoul like entity was crawling on the edge of the bed, pulling my legs towards it. Its face looked like human's face, but the skin was melting off of it, and the skull beneath that was exposed. Okay. I remember feeling like this entity was in pure anguish and was trying to reach for me for help. I desperately began to kick away from it, but its energy and strength was too much. Me and my partner were very spiritually connected, and although she was asleep while all of this was happening, somehow she knew she had to wake me up. She instantly began to shake me awake, even though she told me I wasn't moving or making any noise. As I began to open my eyes in the right corner of my room, I saw the same entity floating in the air, reaching out to me with the same expression of anguish. This is the one and only time I've actually seen something with my own eyes, and I honestly hope it's the last. LOL. I'm a witch and energy worker now and put a lot of effort into cleansing and protecting our home, so I feel more confident in my ability to keep these experiences at bay. A couple years back, while I was still with my ex-boyfriend, I had a morning routine that consisted of doing a quick stretch, workout routine before starting the day. I would usually put on a show on my laptop while doing my workout, and on this particular day, I was watching the chilling adventures of Sabrina, and at the particular point in the show, without giving away too much, it's okay. I end up telling her to give away too much. Sabrina's Aunt Zelda, with the help of the other witches in the show, performed a prayer or an incantation to Hecate, calling in her power and that all of the witches since the beginning of time. For those that don't know, Hecate is known as the goddess of the crossroads. She's often depicted having 3 heads, representing the archetype of 3 stages of womanhood: mother, maiden, crone. She is goddess of witchcraft and liminal spaces, existing in the shadow space of the universe. So basically, Hecate kind of is similar to Sekhmet, similar to Isis. She kind of is the goddess, like the mother goddess of of love and war, meaning like you have to have the light, but you have to have the dark, showing us the dark side of ourselves and of our world. So, with that said, and although the prayer to Hecate was for the show, I watched as this very real prayer was being said out loud, as a real prayer would be, and proceeded. The show was being watched by millions. This prayer was being repeated and spoken out loud continuously. And what that meant at this moment, I was on the floor on my back with my head turned as my computer was to the left of me. Suddenly, I felt an immense energy envelop the room. My head was snapped upwards, and I was immovable. I tried to move my head and arms to no avail. It was like a dense blanket of energy that was immeasurably more powerful than mine in that moment. Desire to get my attention, and I was all ears.
I
I
like
heard
you.
my mind.
You understand me.
I
I
heard in
like
my
you.
mind.
You understand the light and the dark and the need for both.
I like you. You understand me. I like you. You understand the light and the dark and the need for both. I like you. You understand me. I heard this repeated multiple times, all while completely frozen with tears dripping down the side of my face as I was too present to even blink. This experience has stuck with me and informed much of how I understand the universe and our role in it. Side note, as I write this on November 16th, it's Hecate's or worship, a day of worship, a fact I did not know when I began to write. Thanks again, Adela. It was a wonderful experience. Oh, I'm going to read that at the end. Ignore that part. This is what she said to me afterwards, but that's what she had to say because she gives me a little update, but I'll wait for that at the end. I was jumping ahead, going into the future, but I like this because she has some paranormal stuff and she has some witchy stuff. So let's hear what I had to say to Raphaella. Okay, everyone. So you heard me read her email. We have a lot to go over. And I think this is going to be fun because it's going to be a mixture of paranormal, magic. She's witchy. She's had paranormal stuff. I love it. So this is Raphaella. Did I say it right?
You did.
Okay.
That's perfect.
Because I was like, I know Raphael, but
Yeah. It's just with an
Raphaella.
A at the end. That's the only
I
difference.
love it. Yeah, I love it.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so we're gonna go over. Well, I do have to ask you, like, do people always ask you this? Is your born name? Did you
My
name
bo-
yourself this? Like, were you born?
so my father actually named me because there was a lot of Raphaels in his side of the family.
Oh, I knew there had to be some
Yes.
connection.
And
Yeah.
they thought I was going to be born a boy. And then when I came out a girl, they just added an A to it. So,
Yeah. It's very classic.
yeah. Yeah.
They're like, we'll just put an A to it. It's
Yeah, it's
fine.
fine. It's
I
perfect.
know people with uh boy names
Yeah.
like Michael and things like that, like just straight out like that's what we're doing and you're a girl,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is pretty I don't know, I think it's kind of cool actually. I mean, I'm
I
sure it
agree.
wasn't cool growing up because I know I have a weird name and I know how that was torture for me.
Oh, God. I can imagine.
And I'm sure like people always ask you questions about your name.
100%. I accept it. I understand some names are just hard, and I'm here for it. I
Some
understand
names
it.
are just
Some
hard.
names are just hard. My name has so many letters in it, so it's fine.
Yeah. No, that's the thing. When you have a unique name, you have to brace for
Yeah.
the fact that it's going to forever be this way. And
Yes.
I don't ever say his name, but my son has a unique name and I thought it wasn't that unique. And he
Really.
later informed me like, yes, people ask and I'm like, damn it, I did it to him. I did it to him when it was done to me.
They,
But
he'll appreciate it later, I promise, if he
yeah,
doesn't already, because I love my
I totally
unique.
appreciate it when I got older.
Yeah.
Same. Okay, so we're going to go over. First of all, we have to acknowledge. First of all, she has a BCC cup because
I
we
do.
were not in the Meeting River Cafe, but we're talking about it. That's a
Yeah.
nice cup. I
Isn't
haven't seen
it?
their cups, and it's pretty big.
Yeah, and the handle
Wow,
is, like, the perfect gripping size.
size.
I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed. I need to get yours next, actually. Yours is next on the
Well,
list.
wait, because I was about to say this is a good segue.
Oh.
I'm actually in the middle of revamping all merch because I have my friend
Mm.
who she's an amazing crafter, and I mean, like, she has a whole setup in her basement of she does everything with resin to everything. So she's redesigning
Oh.
and remaking all my the new name is light wands instead of incense wands. So they're these light
Mm.
wands you can put incense sticks in and then you could hold it and go around your house.
Oh my god.
Yes.
Obsessed.
I like invented this, by the way,
Oh my
everyone, and
god.
it doesn't exist anywhere. And so I came up with the first version. This is how things go. The first version, right?
Yeah.
And then I was like, the material is just not going to fly. Like it's too
Mhm.
flimsy. So
Mhm.
it was a 3D printed version. She's
Mm.
going to make them all resin with
Oh,
all
sick.
different colors. She can do glitter in it. She may even do in the handle, she may put a crystal in it. So
Oh,
we're going to have different options.
yes.
And then she's going to do some mugs for me. And she wants to do pens with different sayings like, follow yourself, follow no one, listen to
Mm.
your voice, because
Mhm.
she likes pins, I guess she told
Mhm.
me. So
Mhm.
we're working on that, like or she's working on it as we
Yeah.
speak. And I posted on my Instagram if you guys want to go see like the raw version of the first one she did in gold. So, and she changed it so that then you can sit it down and the
Yeah. I was
ash.
gonna ask.
Yeah, and so
Okay.
it's gonna come it kind of almost similar to like a lightsaber, funny enough, but it has a
Amazing.
round piece that you can lay it down. And she's making I think if this all works out, this is how it's gonna go. A mini version of my portable altar that's like a case. So
Oh
the wand will come in that, and then when you
my
open it, the wand can sit in there when you put it down to the ash.
oh my
So you
god.
can
I'm
put
gonna
like
be on the waiting list for that because I need
so,
that
so I'm so
now.
excited because I was like, when it first came out, I was really excited. But
That's
of
so
course, it's like anything, I don't really know what I'm doing. And
yeah.
I'm just like trying to, I'm like, I know this is a great idea. And then with her, she came to visit. She was a student of mine for years and years. And she's like, listen, let's just create a light arm. We're going to create an army,
Mm,
give everybody their
yes,
light wands.
literally.
And so but when I saw her, she was showing me the stuff she does, which she's working on an advent calendar for Halloween
Mm,
and all this type of stuff that's really amazing. And I was like, wait a minute, you're this? I'm like, okay, we need to talk.
yeah. Oh my
So,
god, that's so
so
cool.
yeah, so wait for that. I'm going to be
Yes.
posting. Don't worry.
I'm excited.
So good. That was a nice little segue so I
It
could plug it.
was.
But we also want to plug our BCC boys.
Of course.
Okay, so we're going to get to your email. You have two experiences. So I was rereading it.
Mhm.
So you're sensitive to spirits at the other side. And so you have a similar story as me.
Mhm. Yep.
That's why you put that in there, huh? Because
Yes, it
it's
was.
similar. So
100.
you lost your father when you're 3 months old, and I lost my mom when I was 10 days old. Very similar. So you feel like that's kind of kept the door open for you? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
100.
that makes sense. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay. We'll get to that in a minute. The first experience you want to discuss was in Albany. Okay. So you're in this house. And you said you never felt anything like oppressive, like you didn't feel like something negative or oppressive or anything like that.
It did.
Oh, it did?
It did, yeah.
But you said I had grown up in the house prior to
Prior
that.
to
You
that
never
one, yeah.
did. Okay. Okay. But it wasn't an inviting house and you felt like it was sketchy.
Mhm.
Okay. And you constantly felt like you're being watched and you had sleep paralysis. Can you just describe your experience with sleep paralysis in the house?
Mhm. Um, I'll try my best because I feel like I probably blocked
Blocked
out
it? I
yeah,
know. People say this to me a lot in this podcast, and I'm like, time to face it, everyone.
right? Literally. I mean, yeah, and I think the reason why I brought up my father is because I said in the email too, a lot of what I did at that age, I didn't pray to like I didn't grow up religious.
Oh, God,
So I
lucky
would
you.
pray yeah, right. I would pray to my father and ask him for help.
Oh,
So
okay.
most of my
Oh,
memories are of that moment of asking him to help. But I do remember, so my room was in the very back of the house and it had a long hallway going into it. And I just remember hearing or feeling like the presence slowly walking up to my bed and either like staring at me or being really close to my face. So I used to sleep my
okay.
blanket. I would sleep on my stomach and I would sleep with my blanket all the way up to my eyes so I wouldn't be able to
Mm,
see. Um so yeah, that was pretty reoccurring and it felt not nice.
yeah,
Just put it that way.
right. Okay. So you didn't feel like it was welcoming.
No,
The
it felt almost like they felt like I was intruding on their space and as a kid, I didn't have that like understanding or patience of that. It just felt like something that was mad at me and I didn't
Okay.
like it, you know.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so with the sleep was that would is that what you experienced with the sleep paralysis where you would feel like you're being like, locked in type of thing
Yes.
or okay.
Not
And
being
then you
able to move. And
okay,
then once I prayed to my dad or asked him to help is when I was able to start moving
to
again.
be released. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the worst experiences when you were about 19 and you had your boyfriend over and you were laying in bed taking a nap and you were jolted awake by an audible sound of a woman screaming. Can you take us through that?
Yeah, so we were laying in the bed and I was sleeping and I remember it was on my left ear. I heard a woman like she literally was right next to my ear screaming, very
Okay.
angry scream. And I'd never experienced audible sounds like that
Yeah,
before,
yeah.
so it was
Right.
like my whole life was shaken in that moment and I woke up and immediately
Yeah.
started crying and he had no idea what was going on and honestly I was like I don't even know how to explain it to you because you didn't hear it but it shook me for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. Whenever you have like a apparition or an audible, it's very life altering.
Altering,
Yeah,
yes.
because you're like everything I know of this world is a
Mhm.
little different. Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna get to that. Told my boyfriend what experience, but he heard nothing. Okay, he heard nothing. Okay, so the second experience was only a couple years ago. And you're in this house sitting with your partner now, and you're in bed sleeping, and you had a lucid dream. So this is where like there's a ghoul like entity crawling towards you. This is always fun and
I love you.
melting.
Every time you're like, "Yeah, this sounds horrible for you, but this is great for me."
That's pretty much how I feel about all these things. When I did
I
a
get
seance in Utah, everyone looked freaked out. These people were not prepared. And
no.
I was like, here we go.
Buckle
Let's
your
go.
seatbelts,
Let's go.
everybody.
Time to play. And they're just like, the hell?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so but the human's face, but the skin was melting off. That is not okay. So why
Mm,
don't we talk us through that?
mhm. Yeah. I honestly think that might have been the first time that I saw a spirit while I was in that state. It always been like a feeling for me growing up. It always felt like I was energetically sensitive, but I blocked out visual. And so that time we were in bed and I remember just seeing this like it didn't even look human. Like I knew at some point it was, but it no
Hmm.
longer was and it had like that like Day of the Dead zombie appearance, but instead of having that like zombie face, it looked like it got completely melted. Like the rest of his body was very decrepit and like obviously in anguish, but the face was just like skeleton. Like you could see the pieces of the skin falling off of the
Oh,
face. And
interesting.
it was crawling from the corner of the bed to me. And I remember like that sense of like dread that it had, like it was almost like trying to scream to me to help it and it was like pulling my energy and in the dream it felt like it was pulling my feet, but I remember the sensation felt like it was pulling my energy. And I
Okay, so
remember
did you because this is kind of significant. Did you feel like it was like the feeling like energy is being pulled out of your feet?
mhm. Yes.
Okay, yeah, because that's a thing. So
Yeah.
that's important an
Okay.
aspect to know. Okay,
Okay. Yeah.
okay.
And and then I remember while in that state, I was kicking it away, like trying to get it away from me as much as possible. And my partner, who was dead asleep, and from what I can tell, because I remember being like there and here at the same time, I don't remember moving at all. I just remember it being very much in my mind. My partner jolted awake and immediately started shaking me. And
Mm.
that's what pulled me out of it. But I still was able, when I opened my eyes and was fully awake, to see not in the corner of the bed, but in the right corner of the room, that same entity with almost, it looked like there was multiple of it or multiple people with the same like melted face. It was floating in the air and it looked like an outline almost in like yellow or gold. And it was that same sense of it like trying to crawl to get to me and get my attention. And it lasted maybe like 4 seconds.
So
And
there was multiple images of that?
yeah, when I opened my eyes and I was fully awake, it looked like more than just one. I honestly don't remember when I was more in that sleep state if it was more than one, because I just remember seeing the one, but it could have been multiple then too. But when I was fully awake and seeing it, it was more than one.
Oh, I see. So when you okay, I get what you're saying now. Okay. It's interesting you described it like the Day of the Dead. Is that kind of the image? Like, 'cause you're describing like the skull type of idea, right?
Yes. Yes, I meant, which I may be saying the name wrong. I meant the like zombie
Oh,
movie.
oh, oh, oh,
Yes.
oh, yes, yes, yes,
Not
yes.
the beautiful cultural Mexican. No, never. Never. I'm like looking at my altar right now, like looking at them. I promise you that's not what I meant.
That's not what you meant. Okay, okay, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You're talking about like The Walking Dead and things
Yes.
like that. Yeah, okay.
Zombie like.
Zombie-like. Okay. Oh, zombie-like.
Mhm.
Interesting. Okay. Maybe it was fitting that I was playing a zombie video game before this. Okay, so now let's get to okay, I have one more question though about that.
Mhm.
You said there was gold. What did the gold look like to you? Was it like a hue or was it like painted on, covered
Mm,
in?
it looked like shimmery. It looked like a gold shimmery outline. Like it wasn't a concrete. It wasn't like a flesh seeing a person being a zombie. It looked like the outline of
Was
this
shim
zombie ghoul, and it was goldish.
right. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. That's what I wanted to know. All right, so here we go then. Um, even though she told me, oh wait, so you said I was desperately began to kick away from it, but its energy. Me and my partner are very spiritual connected, and although she was asleep while all of this was happening, so she kind of knew and was like waking you up, or what was happening?
I That's the sense that we got because me and her are both connected on different planes. We've
Right.
figured that out over time of dating each other because we'll astral travel together and like have had past lives from what we remember. So I think it was in my sense it was her higher self seeing it or feeling it and being like, you need to wake up because you need to wake her up because she
Okay.
needs your help.
Okay, so she felt like awoken enough to
Yes.
like now. Okay, gotcha. Okay. So you began to open your eyes in the right corner of the room. You saw the same floating entity floating in the air, reaching out to me with the same expression. Am I going to the wrong one? Or is this continue? Or was that a continuation? Or we're talking about Hecate now.
That was a separate email.
Okay, I think I missed some of this part. Okay, I think I missed the first part of it. Okay, so let me get to. I want to make sure. Did I miss? Because I copy and paste this so
Mm.
in bigger print
Mhm.
than emails because it's like too much to have to look and read emails. Um, okay, okay, I see. This was different. A couple of years back, this is okay. So a couple of years back, you're in your morning routine, and you had experience watching the Sabrina the Witch, right? The
Mhm.
that show. Why don't you
Mhm.
take us through that one? I think
Okay.
I missed this part. Okay, go ahead.
So this
Yeah.
was probably at least 5 years ago, if not more, and this is before my partner now with my ex-boyfriend at the time, and, I had a routine in the morning of going into our living room and doing my, like, back exercises and ab exercises, and I would usually have my laptop next to me while I was doing it.
Oh wait, I
Um
have to interrupt you because you did. This does no, I do have it right
Yeah?
because this says as you begin to open your eyes in the right corner of the room, I saw the same entity floating in the air.
Mhm.
What are you talking about? That's different than you seeing a bunch of them in gold, right? Something else was floating. The same thing was floating.
Oh, like, maybe I didn't write that it was multiple? Is that
Yeah,
what you're
because you
saying?
said that as you began to open your eyes in the right corner of the room, you saw that same entity floating in the air, reaching
Mm.
out to me with the same
Mhm.
expression. So it was floating in the air, so it kind of
Mhm.
changed to floating. What did it look like when it was floating? Same?
It
The
looked
same
the same.
imagery?
Yeah, and I should have put in there, but it did look like it was multiple of that same entity, and
Okay.
it was yeah, when I woke up, it when I was in that, like, dream state, it was on the edge of the bed crawling towards me. When I woke up, it looked like I opened my eyes and saw it now floating on the
Okay.
right side of the bedroom
Okay,
with
that's
that,
kinda
like,
cool.
gold outline. Yeah.
Okay, okay, yeah, I like that. Okay.
Yeah, I'd never experienced. I was like, "This is the weirdest shit I've ever experienced in my life," and I don't even know if I'm gonna be able to portray it in a message, but, like, I will
Yeah,
try.
you did, and I get it. I get the picture now. It's okay,
Yeah.
I have the whole
Okay.
picture. Okay, now we're to a couple years back, you're with your
Yes.
ex, you had your morning routine, you're doing your stretch, you're doing the stuff, okay, and then there's, like, a trippy thing that happens with Adventures of Sabrina. Now we're getting into more magic-y stuff, so let's go through
Mhm.
that. So
Okay.
what happened? Take us through that.
Okay. So, like I said in the email, I don't wanna give too much away of the show, although it's an old show,
I
so
think it's
well,
okay.
sorry, not sorry.
It's a pretty old show. If you
Okay.
haven't watched it by now,
Right.
oh well. I think people will
Right.
be fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, there's a point in the show, from what I remember, where Sabrina and her family are no longer worshiping Satan, they're now worshiping Hecate, and so prior to that moment,
Wait.
Helga
We have to do a little backup.
okay, got it.
I've never watched the
Oh,
show
okay.
ever.
Okay,
So
got
what do
it.
you mean they were they worshiping Satan at some point? What
Yes,
was
they
happening
were.
with this show? Oh,
They were.
really?
Yeah, they were a what do you call that? They don't call it a coven, they call it something else, like House of Satan, yeah. They were worshiping
Okay.
Satan,
So
yeah.
they were Satanists? There was a show where they had Satanists on the Disney Channel?
Yes. I don't know if that's Disney. That was came out in Netflix. I don't know if that was Disney. Not the
Oh,
old Sabrina, the new one.
okay, gotcha.
Yeah, not the old no, the
I
old one, no way.
I
No
was,
way.
like, trying to picture
Right,
the
the old
showrunners and
Sabrina.
everyone going, "Yes, we're gonna put that on." Okay.
Right,
Okay, the new one. Okay,
the new
so
one.
they decide to switch from Satan worshippers to Hecate. Okay, so
Yes.
you're watching that. Okay.
Yes, and in that, they're doing her aunt is doing an invocation to Hecate.
Mhm.
So she's announcing her allegiance, kind of just asking her to help in this certain thing that's going on in the show. And as I'm doing my workout on the floor and watching this, I was just processing in my mind that, like, although this is meant to be just for the show, it still is reading like and sounding like a real invocation. And this is
Mhm.
something that millions of people around the world are listening to and watching in their homes and
Mhm.
processing like what that meant in terms of like energy and like like what are you actually calling out when you're doing stuff like this, right?
Yeah.
And as I
Right.
was processing that, I felt this extremely powerful energy enter the space that felt like it was above me, and I was looking to the left at my computer on the floor because I was on my back, and I felt my head snap upwards, and I could no longer move as much as I tried. I couldn't move my arms, I couldn't move my hands. I don't even remember if I could blink, to be honest, so that might have just been like me in such shock of what I was experiencing, but it felt like this very almost like if the energy was like of being in like a cave and having this really dense night engulfing you while you're in that cave. Like it didn't necessarily feel scary in any way. It just felt
Mhm.
very like dark in not a bad way. Like just it didn't feel like a sun-filled energy walking into the
It
room.
just felt heavy.
It felt
Kinda
heavy. It
yeah.
felt heavy.
Right.
And I just remember hearing in my head, and it kept repeating, was, I like you. You understand me. I like you. You get it. You understand the balance. You need the dark. You need the light, and you get it. I like you. And it just kept repeating and repeating and repeating. And I think at some point I tried to talk back, and maybe we did, but I don't remember many details about that. I just remember that feeling of like never experiencing something that powerful enter a space and me just be like almost like you just kind of gotta like go with it and let whatever happens happens. Like you're no longer in control of the situation. You don't have that same energetic power, so you just need to like sit and let it happen.
Mhm.
But it was really powerful. And
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And for everybody who doesn't know, why don't you kind of explain a little bit about what you know about Hecate?
Okay.
She is a deity for people
Yes.
who don't know a goddess. Um,
Yes.
go ahead, like her role usually.
I will be honest, I don't know too much. I'm kind of in the
That's
process
okay. I
of
don't know a ton
learning
either because I
more.
don't really work with Hecate, but I think Hecate is supposed to be very similar to Isis. Very
Mm,
similar.
okay.
It's like that. Like what is Hecate? What is it? Greek or I forget. What is it?
Greek.
Greek. So I
Yes.
think it's the Greek version of Isis. So she's like a
Mm,
mother. She kind of
mhm,
deals with the underworld, but she
mhm,
does deal with like kind of witchcraft and
mhm,
witchery. It usually is where people tend to get drawn to that first when they get into the witchy
mhm,
world. Um, but it's not the only thing you have to use. But to me, she's very similar to like Isis is in the Egyptian world.
mhm.
That kind
Yeah.
of like mother, like
Yes. I've heard her
badass
called like
type of thing.
the dark mother, right?
Yeah, yeah, and so is Kali, so
Yes.
is so is Isis in a way because it really just represents like you got to fucking be a warrior. Also,
Yeah.
you can't just be light, and so is
Yes.
Sekhmet. They're all kind of similar.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So
okay,
she invite from what I learned is that she invites you to face the darker aspects of the human existence
yeah,
and
that's
energy
what
in general.
right. That's what all of those are. Same with Kali. Same with yeah. It's always about like you have to deal with this world and you have to deal with the dark side of it and you have to deal with and you can deal with the love and support, but you better learn to deal with the darker side of things. And
Yeah.
that's what she means by the balance.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Finding that wholeness within yourself so that you can really be present with the world you live in instead of just being in that love and light, which is nice sometimes, but sometimes you need the
Not
other side of it.
helpful when people are like, well, that's not helping me right now while I'm going through like
Exactly.
difficult times. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Perfect. Okay, let's get going. Let's get going with I gotta turn this down a little bit. Okay. So um the first part was kind of interesting. Because you already had a feeling about the house. So obviously
Yeah.
the house has something going on.
Mhm.
Um and you already kind of felt there was something. So a woman screaming is not always great. So I'm going to look and see. I feel like when I see the house, it definitely has not a good feeling. I don't feel like there's any personal. I wish it was someone personal, someone who maybe even knew you in some capacity, but I don't see that. I feel like even when I tune into it, it's like the woman is very angry at uh, a man. That's the first thing I got, which is kind of trippy. And it's almost like you guys, because you were laying next to your boyfriend at the time, right? When this was happening. So it's almost like a lot of times spirits only see what they interpret as like almost like it's them. It's almost like you're similar to her. So she's like talking to you, like, get away from him even if he wasn't a bad person but
Mm.
or whatever, but she
Mhm.
didn't like him. So
Mm.
it's weird, it wasn't about like her literally going like help me. It was more like if you go to someone like hey wake up,
Mhm.
like
Yep.
what the hell, like don't you get it. So
Yeah.
so I feel like she was definitely projecting a lot onto you but also did not like him. You would think it would be at him, but it's not because she's trying to get your attention about him.
Interesting. That tracks, to be honest. That tracks because it didn't sound yeah, like you said, it wasn't a scream of like trying to get my attention. It was a scream of like disappointment or anger towards
Yes.
me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Were you having some issues with him at the time, if you recall?
Yeah, he wasn't great.
Yeah.
He
I
wasn't
feel
great.
like I feel like what it was is that in that house, she had experienced someone not great. She had, and this is what people don't realize is that the other realm, especially women, are trying to help us all the time.
Mm,
But I feel like immediately I could see her like just kind of judging you in a way, like, really, do you not get it? This is a bad situation and he's bad. Even like, but the projection is she's putting all the things her experience in that house. The reason why, and the one thing I got led to was the bathroom for some reason.
really?
Something went down in this bathroom because when I go from your room, I go out the door and go to the left, and I think there's a bathroom. I'm not sure, but she's pointing to this room, this whatever. I thought I saw it as a bathroom, but she's saying she ended up hurting herself because of the relationship she was in, and she just it was a very dark situation, much darker than your situation, but in her perspective, she was like saying this isn't the road you should go down to you. So it was like protecting you in
Interesting.
aggressive manner.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Was there if you go out the room you guys were in, you go to the left, what's that for? Was there a room next to your room?
That would have been my mother's room.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The bathroom is to the you go down the hall, it's to the right and then a right again, and it's right here.
Okay. Then it's her room. It's her room.
I
It's
mean,
all
her room always felt horrible, to be honest with you. So
like
I'm
this is
not
the room all
surprised.
the bad stuff happened to her.
Okay.
Um and the bathroom was where she would run and hide and hurt herself. There was like those things were happening in the house.
Mm, okay.
So you're the one that sees things, right? You're the
Yeah.
one that senses things. So she's going to go for your attention. It doesn't mean she might have not even your mom, but she just felt like your mom would never hear her. So
Mhm.
she was more concerned about you.
Mhm. Interesting. Okay.
Not attached to you at all. You don't know her at all.
No.
She doesn't know you.
Yeah.
She does know she's dead. She's not
Okay.
clueless to that she's dead, but
Okay.
she's kind of made it her mission on in the other realm to any woman that comes into that same space, not that she can't do it in other spaces
Mhm.
and they don't have a good man,
Mhm.
she's going to warn them.
I mean, bet. I'm kind of obsessed with her now. She sounds great. I would have tea with her.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've kind of like, she's a little bit feral. So I've had to like talk to her about that being so. They're not
Okay.
supposed to be like that,
Yeah.
but she kind of sees it like, well, she got away from him. So I feel like I did something.
Mm.
It's even like if you're not conscious about it, she did feel concerned about your mom, but she didn't, your mom wouldn't hear her anyway. But she's saying you just sensed what happened in that house because Amelia just had that like sinking,
Did you
stomachy
too?
feeling.
Stop. Really? So did I. I was gonna mention it. I felt like someone was, like,
Yeah,
doing this with my stomach.
yeah, that's the energy. So she's
Interesting.
trying to show us what happened. And
Okay.
then it like releases because she's like, okay, now that we got that settled, and she
Mm,
kind of likes that people know her story a little bit more,
okay.
and that maybe she wasn't a bad person, she was trying to help you.
Okay.
But this is what I always try to tell people. People are always like, how come the spirit world doesn't do more things more aggressively or whatever, more loudly? And I'm like,
They
well,
would freak
because
out.
if they do it a little bit, they freak out. So
Yeah.
she kind of broke the rules of like, well, I'm not going to be subtle about it, I'm just going to be loud about it and see if it works.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
and I wasn't gonna mention, but I'll mention it now that I do remember as a kid, my mom told me that a woman passed away in that house. So,
Hmm.
I don't know how old she was or her
I
life
feel like it
story,
was at
but
the hands of this man.
ugh.
Yeah, that's why I said I saw her like running from him and running into the bathroom and having to lock herself in that bathroom. And, I don't think he died because that house isn't that old, right?
I don't know, I don't think so.
So I feel like, yeah, so or it was self-inflicted because she was
Mm,
showing me her hurting herself in the
ugh.
bathroom. Like it was a bad situation. It was like an abusive, situation that she felt trapped in.
Mm.
So that's why she's made it her mission, like anyone who steps into this domain
Mm.
and there's a guy she doesn't like,
Mhm.
she's gonna warn the girl.
Okay. I'm
Yeah.
here for it.
Okay.
I'm here for it.
So the second one happened, the lucid dream. Okay, I already know what this is, and you're gonna be a little surprised.
Okay.
Um, interesting part. I know you saw them like zombies, which is not
Mhm.
fun.
No.
Or you saw them like yeah, like zombies, Walking Dead type of people. But they had gold light around them, which is very interesting, which is really the light of that realm. They also floated, and there was one and there was a few. I feel this was you kind of breaking the wall, the veils, if you will, and seeing the dead, but your sight isn't sharpened enough. So they, let's put it this way: when you first start to see these things, it's not always a woman in a Victorian dress. Sometimes they're kind of trying to give you symbolism. So
Mm.
my feeling is it had to do with
Mm.
the land you were on.
Mhm.
And they were like, we died here.
Mm.
Hey, see, look, we're dead.
Mm.
Like, see? And you're like, that's a little much. And they're like, well, we're trying to like play charades with you here. Like we
Yeah.
died and we're in the land. And
Okay.
usually when it's, the feeling I got immediately is like something like it could be Native American or of that, or of a different type of culture. They tend to be a little more aggressive about that we're in the land, not like, I don't know how to explain it. It's a little different than someone who's like, hey, my name's Sally and I died here.
Mhm.
It's a little
Mhm.
bit more like a representation of a bunch of us were killed here for
Got
the
it.
wrong reasons.
Got it.
So they're
Okay.
upset. So I feel like, again, the realm knows that you can see them. So they'll tend to show themselves. And I feel like they thought putting the gold light could reassure you they're not bad, because
Mm.
gold is representation of protection. And from that other realm, that's the light I always use to protect people doing this work. That's the light I use every day. So I thought that's why I wanted to ask you that. And the fact that one of them was floating was kind of trying to show you that they weren't of this world. But I know it sounds crazy, but I didn't see it as negative. Do you know anything about the land?
I'm not surprised. So that was in Richmond, California, which I'm not sure exactly what indigenous community would have been there, but there for sure would have been one. And
Mm-hmm.
also that community, that particular part of Richmond, there's a lot of crime. There's a lot of like accidents and drugs and just energy that hasn't been healed.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah, it'd be interesting if we can find out that particular area. It feels more indigenous
okay.
and how they tend to work. They tend to kind of be a little aggressive about letting people know
Mm,
because they feel so abused by the public, by the world at whole. Like they were just
yeah.
wiped off the earth and never cared about. So
Yeah.
they don't care about letting people know, almost
Kindly.
kind of like reenacting it in a brutal way. I
Mm,
always see them that way.
mm,
Whenever I've worked on lands that people are like, there's weird, these things keep happening and this and that. And then I see them and they're like, well, just shouldn't have bought, just built houses on lands that people died on.
yeah.
And you have this land because of us. That's kind of the
Right.
consensus.
Right.
So anyway, I don't know. That's just what comes to me. I
Well,
could be wrong
that
about.
actually makes sense in the context of who was there. So my partner's actually indigenous. She's from two
Okay.
different tribes. And at that point in our life, in our relationship, we had just started to do workings together. And not sure if it was prior to this or after, but we were making like moon waters in the house and cleansings. And I think it makes sense that maybe those spirits were like, hello, you're doing
Yeah,
all this stuff. She's indigenous and you guys aren't acknowledging.
they tend to be that way.
Yeah.
They're not subtle at all because of the crimes against them,
Yeah.
the crimes against humanity.
Yeah.
That's how they see it.
Mhm.
And so they're like, we don't have time to be subtle anymore. They will be
Mhm.
very cool to you. Like I've seen them and they're like, what do you want me to do? And they're like, make sure you stand circle
Mm.
and make acknowledgement of our death here,
Mm.
and we will work with you.
Mhm.
But if you don't do that, we're not interested.
Yeah.
So I've done that for people when I've done cleansings, and they're cool with me because I know they're aggressive, and I'm like, okay, you have a
Mhm.
right. I'm
Mhm.
not taking that from you,
Mhm.
because they don't like the like be gone. That doesn't really
No.
work with them. Because they feel that it's almost like they feel like their lives were sacrificed for people to live on the land.
Mhm.
So it's almost like you're not going to have as easy power. And they're so connected, even before they died, with how these
Mm.
things work. So it's almost like you're dealing with like a powerful witch. Like you're not going
Yeah.
to have it's not going to have the same power over them.
Yeah.
So you have to work with them.
Yes.
And you go, okay, you're right. And
Yes.
what do you want me to do? And they'll say, this is all I want you to do. And as long as you're doing that with us. So I feel like, and they tend to be a little aggressive. Like if you have sight, they're like, you have sight. So get over it and just, and see it and
Yeah.
stop being scared. They're a little like that. And I tend to work with them, not like other spirits where I'm like, whoa, 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 get yourself in line. It doesn't work with that group.
Mhm.
I don't do that with
Yeah.
that group. So I would say like maybe do a little something to acknowledge them and acknowledge her ancestors and the energies that you're tapping into. Just in general, could
Yeah.
be interesting.
Yeah, we do that now. We didn't
Okay.
at that point, we don't. Now, honestly, everywhere we go, we give an offering, whether it be like tobacco or fruit or just saying words,
Yeah.
acknowledgement of the indigenous people of the land. And we've gotten really beautiful confirmations in that way. So it does make sense that it's kind of like that first step in the like steps of what you do if you're going to be doing something on land,
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay.
Love
So now we're going to switch to the other witchy, which is like a different energy. So Hecate. So obviously, so when you're right, when people do these things in movies and shows, I always look at that and I always know there's things that happen. And I always say, you're just I always think when I see that people are messing with things they don't realize they're messing with. So I feel like, but more importantly, it's because you are very open and connected to those types of beings and types of things. So that's why it happens so much with you. I was going to say also the sleep paralysis as well is when what happens is when your spirits kind of, when you said that you were kind of frozen and then like in the last one, and you saw things and then you kind of released and then saw them again more like awake. Yeah, because your spirit starts to meet them halfway in the in between,
Mhm.
right? That's what
Mhm.
sleep paralysis is. People kind of start to go there and then they freak out and then you're kind of stuck in between. So I feel like something's very much beckoning you, and I feel like with the Hecate, that is exactly how those entities. I call them like an energy. They work with you. They like if you get it, or they try to like the first time I saw Secament, I didn't even know anything about those things. I just saw something a woman in gold and black wrap her arms around me and say, "You need to learn. You've been doing all this light stuff, but you better learn to be a warrior if you're going to continue this work." So, time to be a warrior. And I was like, "Whoa, who is that?" And I had to look it up, and until I saw what it looked like. It's very similar thing that happened to you. That's what those deities do. They're not about love and light. They're like, that's nice and everything, but if you're going to be messing around in this realm,
Mhm.
you better learn to be a warrior. So I feel like it was a beckoning kind of coming at you, saying it's time to like kind of balance those two sides of you and start working with those sides. It doesn't have to be Hecate, but if you like that one, but because they don't care, they're like, if you want to work with someone else, it's fine. I felt very drawn to that. I've always felt drawn to Egyptian. I was already wearing Eye of Horus, so I feel like she was like, well, if you're going to be playing around with all these Egyptian energies, you better figure out this other part, like, and I was kind of, oh, you that's why I got, okay, then I think I'm going to work with you. So it's up to you. And we were talking about off air at how I have a Sekhmet statue, and
Yep.
I went to Utah and I was doing a seance, and I take that statue everywhere, and all of a sudden the feet got broken on the statue. And I was telling Raphaella that I kind of feel like Sekhmet was like, my work here is done. It's time for you to maybe work with someone else. I still can be there, but there may be someone to step in. That's how those types of beings are. They're like teachers. So for you, I feel like something was like, yeah, for you, this isn't just a TV show.
Yeah.
This is something you can do
Yeah.
if you want to do. So what you experienced where you felt frozen and you felt like you were crying, that's how it feels like. Because it's a positive. It's like
Mhm.
not a sad. It's like, oh my gosh, I know this. This
Mhm.
is home. This is somebody I know. This is
Mhm.
mother. This is sister. I know this energy. So
Mhm.
what I would say to you is figure out how to work with one of them,
Oh
which one you
yeah.
like.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. I'm
And
here
just
for it.
continue that. So I feel like was kind of it was just trying to remind you. So it was really awesome.
Yeah, that experience was very humbling in a beautiful way.
Yeah.
I do work with different deities now, but I think
Hmm.
in this particular moment, I'm not surprised that she's reappearing because I think it's an energy that's really needed for me and the collective in general. So
Right.
I'm excited to see what comes out of that.
Yeah. So that's what I feel like was happening. I feel like all of these, if we were to like connect dots into a circle, all adds up to this is more about your abilities and you like working with your abilities, the other realms, seeing that Wi-Fi that you threw up and kind of recognizing, okay, there's one over here that sees things and feels things. So because when it happens kind of more than once, and when it happens so intensely, um, and even especially you add the Hecate to the mix, it's definitely more about your abilities and you working with them, and maybe even more figuring out how, if you want to use it more to talk to the spirit world or not, just kind of exploring that
Mhm. Okay.
concept.
I'm excited.
Okay.
Okay. I love that. Okay.
Yeah. So I know that, I mean, obviously everyone can tell that, you're pretty witchy. I feel like you're pretty tuned in. So I'm going to say, stepping out of all these stories, just reading your energy, very much have your waters run deep. So I would see how deep you can go.
All right. 100%. I'm
You
ready.
can't just always float around on your broom. You sometimes.
Why not? That sounds so fun.
I know. I've tried.
Oh
Trust me.
god.
I've
Yeah.
tried, but it feels like they're wanting the exchange. What happens with that realm is they're like, if you're going to work with us and you're going to do all those things, we need you to do some things for the people here.
Yeah.
We need you to use your abilities, like a messenger, basically.
Yes.
So they're like, where's
Yes.
the exchange?
Yes. Got it.
So
Yes.
it starts popping up in these weird ways that you're like, I'm just watching a TV show. They're like, not today.
Oh god. Yeah.
I mean, this has happened to me so many times where I'm just checking out, watching something, the TV starts flipping or flashing. Or the other day, I forgot to tell this to my husband. Another day, I came down and the TV was on, and that is never. He's a person that checks and balances all the things. He's very meticulous, and I was like, okay, so when you have these things happening, and yours were pretty in your face. They
Yeah.
were not subtle.
No.
They weren't like, here's a little butterfly or here's this. Then and my read on you is that there's a lot more you're capable of doing than you're letting yourself really go do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
Can't just hide behind the moon water. There's other things you can do.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm
Those are
I'm
nice.
working on that. I am. I'm at that point now. I didn't mention it before, but I got a reading with you years ago. around that same time of the story with Hecate, I got a reading with you, and it was right at my beginning of like my baby spiritual opening, and like being really afraid of all the energy that was around me because it was a lot.
A lot, yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot, but I think right now I'm at a place where I'm really finding my purpose and really enjoying being able to help people with the tools that I've gained through my spiritual
Mhm.
practice.
Mhm.
So, and feeling that power and being like, okay, like I'm ready for whatever this turns into. So, this was a great confirmation.
Reminder. Yeah,
Yes.
and confirmation. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on.
Of course. Thank you
And
for
I'm so
having
glad
me.
you wrote in, and I can't wait to see what you're going to be doing.
Oh, thanks, Adela. You too. I'm going to keep listening and keep enjoying your
Oh,
stories.
listen,
And
yeah, but I'm trying to get all you younger people on board because, I got to retire at some
you're
point.
like, I only got a
So,
couple
like,
more
you
years.
guys got to take over. Come on. Like,
Uh,
but not for a while, but still.
yeah.
So seriously, so I think it's going to
Yeah.
be cool.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right. Bye.
Okay, so a couple of things. First of all, I thought it was really interesting that she had the whole Hecate experience. I felt like it was kind of fitting for what we're all going through in the world. We have to face the dark sides of ourselves. We have to face the dark of the world. It sucks. Who wants to do any of that? Not me. And I thought it was really interesting. I can't remember. I think I told her this in when I talked to her. But I did have the same experience with my secondment's statue feet breaking when I went to Utah. And I feel like it means that we all have to be in the moment. And I kind of feel that's a big part of what was happening. I also wanted to let her know when she felt like I forgot to tell her this, that when she felt like there was energy pulling for the feet, because a lot of times our spirit and energy moves out of our feet and goes through and out of our feet. A lot of times when I'm pushing energy into people, I push through the feet. So I forgot to mention that. And lastly, she did give me an update on the things that I saw about the indigenous people, Native American people that I felt was on the land. And this is what she had to say, because I thanked her for coming on. Thanks again, Adela. It was a wonderful experience to be able to talk to you and hold space with you. And I'm so glad it was helpful to you. Same goes for me, honestly, because I told her it was really great to kind of come back to my podcast and do it and have this like positive energy. So I looked with the indigenous community of the now Richmond, California territory, and it's the Onolone people, specifically the Muwakama, and the Ohlone people. That's what she said was of that. I really, really felt like a lot of her sight and her ability to be a little witchy and her sight had a lot to do with why she was seeing what she was seeing, which I thought was really interesting and also important for it to be said and for her to embrace those things about herself. I forgot to mention, and I wanted to leave this with everybody, a couple of things. One, she has a podcast, and the name of the podcast is called Queerify. It's at Aquarify Wellness, and I'll tag her. She said that here's the bio of what her podcast is about. Queerify works to demystify wellness for queer people of color by sharing stories from folks who have opened their hearts to radical acceptance and are taking their well-being into their own hands. Our mission on this podcast is for you to feel less alone, more connected to yourself and to community. Hosted by Vasquez, all pronouns, a two-spirit human, joy influencer, energy worker, and dad joke concierge. Hope this was helpful. So go check out. I will tag her podcast. I feel like this is important. Mental health is going to be so important at this time. Don't as well as taking care of your spirit. I believe in that, and this is a great source for queer people. I also wanted to let people know that Make sure you reach out to other people in your community, meaning like this is a time to connect. This is a time to check in. Make sure you're talking to like-minded people that help you understand, your feelings and the things you're going through. I wanted to let everybody know, I think I already said this, that I am doing that to remind everybody that I'm going to do the meditation and you can come live or listen to it later. I really am trying to make this a light one. I usually have done things that kind of really kind of open you up and like make you travel. This is going to clean and have a place for you to connect to the light. We need it. We need a break, right? So if you would like to join that, and I feel like I announce all those things. Like you heard me talk about with Raphaella that I am coming out with the new and improved, instead of it being called incense wands, light wands. And they're going to be resin, different colors. They're going to come in a little case. This is the plan. And I'm going to have other things available. I am trying, everyone. I am trying to bring you all the things. And don't forget to catch my Patreon, where I post energy climates every day. If you want to support this podcast and all the work that I do, my Patreon is the best place. Also, leaving a review would really help as well. But I'm so glad to be back. I'm excited because you guys are sending me in your stories. Please keep sending in stories to the housemate at Gmail. I love it because it just helps me to connect with you and also helps other people to connect with you. Thank you all so much. Follow yourself, follow no one. And I wanted to kind of end on a note before I say that. Make sure you really listen to your inner voice. If there's ever a time to listen to your intuition and to believe in yourself when it comes to that, it is now. If I haven't taught you anything, if there's anything I might have been able to teach you over this time, if there's any impression I can give you now that is so important, if there's anything that I can stress more than anything in the world right now, is to follow your intuition. It is going to be the biggest asset you have, more than just all the readings you're doing and all the things you're checking. Really check in with yourself. Check in with your ancestors. Check in with your family on their side. They are trying to work with us. I fully believe that. And I just can't stress enough that I want you to feel the light when it's hard to find the sun shining on your face. I know it is, but this is the time to try to seek it out. Okay, follow yourself. Follow no one. Listen to your inner voice. And I'll see you soon.